Okay, so depending on when you're seeing this, happy Thursday or happy Friday. So on Wednesday in class, I touched on this concept of energy flowing through a system, or particularly through photosynthesis here and cellular respiration, and about energy actually cycling. So I wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit more through these energy flows and matter cycles notes. So I wanted to point out that at the very top part of these notes, we have both a definition and a chemical equation for both cellular respiration and photosynthesis. I know we've seen these definitions and these equations multiple times by now, but please make sure that you actually read through this yet again, especially if you're still a little unsure about what's happening in each process and how they're connected. Okay, so these have been put up here so that you can refer back to both, the definition, what is cellular respiration, what is photosynthesis, what's actually happening, and actually seeing that in these chemical equations. So make sure you read through that. As a quick review or reminder, remember with photosynthesis, we're talking about producers converting light energy into chemical energy. Okay, when it comes to producers, for what we're doing, we're focusing on plants. Okay, so for photosynthesis, talking when plants are converting light energy into chemical energy, and that energy is actually stored in the bonds of glucose here. Okay, so if I actually show us an image of glucose, we have these bonds here between our carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms of glucose. So the chemical energy is stored in these bonds. And actually, when we go through cellular respiration, we are burning or breaking down glucose. So we're breaking these bonds and releasing that energy to help us charge up ADP to turn it into ATP. Okay. So I really wanted to show this image to make sure that we all got this image and understood that light energy that the plants capture, that is then converted into chemical energy, which is stored in these bonds. Okay, so when it comes to these notes, I'm going to be filling some information in to our image here. Hopefully by now you've realized that this model is similar to the one that I gave you on Wednesday in that modeling activity. I just wanted to throw that out there. I will be filling in some information, so make sure you follow along and fill it in on your sheet as well. Okay, to start us off, I want to make sure that we understand that what is yellow in this diagram is referring to energy, and what is red is referring to matter. And what we can see, even from this image right now, is that energy flows through these two processes. So ATP energy isn't converted to something that will generate into light energy in the sun, right? That energy is coming from the sun and is flowing through the system. But matter, in the form of these atoms and these molecules, is actually being recycled. Okay, their forms, like what molecules are being presented, may change, but the matter is being recycled. Okay, so to start us off, I want to go ahead and label the sun here with light energy. And I'm going to tell you that the first process that we're starting off with is photosynthesis. Okay, the organelle in which photosynthesis takes place is the chloroplast. Okay, so we have light energy being captured by the chloroplast, and specifically, it's being captured by the chlorophyll that's in each of these little thylakoid structures. So those pancake-like structures are thylakoids. Inside the thylakoid is that light-capturing pigment, chlorophyll. And these are within the chloroplast. So chlorophyll is capturing that light energy, and because of that light energy, the plants are able to take their reactants, water and carbon dioxide, and turn them into oxygen and this glucose molecule. So let's actually fill that in here. Let's fill in our reactants and our products. So you don't have to do this the way that I'm doing it. But I like to see that subscript. I like to include it. You could also just write H, put a 2 after it, and an O, and I would understand what you're doing. But we have 6 molecules of water, 6 molecules of CO2, and these are our reactants. These are what are going into the chloroplast or into the plant for photosynthesis. Okay. So we have water, carbon dioxide, and then in the presence of light energy, they are converted into 6 oxygen molecules and 1 glucose molecule. Now we could probably say that this glucose molecule is charged because it does have energy stored in those bonds. So why is it that I've made like glucose here red, but it's contained within this starburst yellow structure? Well, that's because when we're thinking matter, we're talking about the atoms that are cycling through the system. So our carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms that make up all of the molecules involved in photosynthesis and cellular respiration, they are being cycled through the system. Okay, they are considered matter. But within the bonds of this glucose molecule, there is energy. So that's why glucose here is inside this starburst structure, because this glucose molecule holds energy. It holds chemical energy. So now we've correctly identified both the reactants and products for photosynthesis. I want to go ahead and tell you that the structure that's being shown down here is the mitochondria. These are present in both plant and animal cells because both plant and animal cells do go through cellular respiration. We have our reactants here for cellular respiration. So the products of photosynthesis are what is needed in cellular respiration to actually create usable ATP for non-producers, for consumers. So for our animals, for us. So how is it that we get chemical energy? Or how is it that we get energy? We have to consume glucose molecules. Our bodies break them down. And when they break the glucose, the energy that was stored within those bonds is used to create ATP. It is ATP that our body can use to perform all of its functions. So ATP is a usable form of energy for us. We cannot use the chemical energy stored in these bonds. We can't use that directly. We have to change it into ATP energy for it to be used by our bodies. Okay, so at this point we have finished with like a kind of adding stuff to our model. But hopefully from making this model we can see how energy does flow through. So energy is transformed but flows through the cycle. But this matter here, these atoms that are involved in these molecules, they are continuously cycled. So both of these processes are dependent upon one another. Okay, so now that we're done, I'm going to click Save and Close. And it'll take a second to repopulate, but here is our little model that we just created. So I have a few questions that I want us to answer together. So the first one is, how do photosynthesis and cellular respiration demonstrate conservation of matter? We did just touch bases on that a little bit. But so that we all understand, every atom of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen that goes in as an input or reactant equals the number of atoms that come out as outputs or products. Okay, I am almost actually at our limit here for time for our first video, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop this video, and I'll start another. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop this and make sure you jump to video 2.